Melody Shari, who so many of you know from Love and Marriage, Huntsville, and her amazing interview with Focus Point. But I promise you, this isn't just a recap of an interview. This is about connecting the dots, seeing how far Melody has come, and also how her story ties back into people like Martell Holt, Marsa Scott, and Letitia Tisha Scott. So don't click away. Trust me, the deeper we go, the more powerful it gets. And you are not going to want to miss the ending because the final takeaway will leave you inspired. So let's start with Melody. In her Focus Point interview, she walked in wearing her crown with grace, elegance, and the energy of a woman who has been through so much but refuses to be defined by pain. She was introduced as an award-winning producer, entrepreneur, chart-topping singer, and the powerhouse behind 7th Avenue Beauty. Already that introduction says a lot because it reminds us that Melody is not just a reality star on Love and Marriage, Huntsville. She is a businesswoman, a creator, a teacher, and a woman who has learned to pivot at every stage of her life. And what I want you to do is think about that word, pivot, because as we go along in this video, I'm going to show you how Melody has mastered the art of pivoting, and how that's something every single cast member has had to do in their own way. Now, when Melody was asked about how she started her career, she shared something that I think is so important. She began as a middle school English teacher, and she said that the reason she wanted to be in the classroom was to show kids who looked like her that no matter where you come from, no matter what family you're born into, you can still be successful. Just think about that for a moment. Before the businesses, before the reality TV, before all the drama with Martell Holt, Melody was in the classroom changing lives one student at a time. She said she had students reading on a 2nd grade level, and within a short time, she had them up to their actual grade level. That is not easy work. That is leadership. That is purpose. And if you've been following her journey on Love and Marriage, Huntsville, you know that Melody has always carried that same energy into everything she does. Stay with me here, because I want to connect this back to the show. On Love and Marriage, Huntsville, we've seen Melody and Martell Holt go through one of the most public and painful divorces on reality TV. We've seen Marsa and Letitia Scott argue over business and marriage roles. We've seen the ups and downs of friendships and partnerships. But when you go back and hear Melody talk about her time as a teacher, you realize that her leadership and resilience didn't just start when she became famous. It was already there. She has always been a builder. She has always been someone who lifts others up while lifting herself. That's why so many people connect with her. And here's the first hook I want to give you. Don't leave yet, because later in this video, I'm going to show you how what Melody said about teaching connects directly to her current business ventures, and how it even sets her apart from Martell Holt's decisions in business. You're going to want to hear that comparison. Now, let's keep going. Melody explained in the interview that even though she left the classroom, she never stopped being a teacher. She now teaches adults. She has a property preservation course where she has helped create over 1,200 entrepreneurs. Think about that. More than 1,000 people now have their own businesses because Melody decided to share her knowledge. That's not just success. That's legacy. And that word legacy is key because every cast member on Love and Marriage, Huntsville, talks about building a legacy. Marsa Scott talks about building generational wealth through real estate and construction. Letitia Scott talks about financial literacy and budgeting. Martell Holt often talks about wanting to leave something for his kids, even though many fans feel his actions haven't always matched his words. But Melody, she's out here proving it with receipts. She also said something powerful about pivoting. She said one of her guiding principles is to trust her intuition and to make sure that whatever she does, it doesn't harm others. That stood out. Because if you've watched the show, you know a lot of harm has been done. A lot of pain has been caused, especially in her relationship with Martell. But here she is, saying her moves are rooted in purpose, passion, and fairness. She even said that no matter what industry she's in, she always wants to be fair to her clients and fair to herself. That is such a contrast when you think about the chaos we've seen on screen. Because in the real world, people sometimes chase money, fame, or attention at the expense of fairness. Melody is saying, no, I won't do that. Now let's pause and think about how this connects to Martell Holt. Martell has been involved in real estate and development projects. But time and time again on the show, fans have questioned his decision-making. Whether it was business deals falling through, his reputation being tied to drama, or his struggle to rebuild after the divorce. Martell has had a hard time proving himself. Meanwhile, Melody has pivoted, kept her reputation strong, and built multiple income streams. And that difference right there shows why she continues to rise while others struggle. Don't go anywhere because, later in this video, I'm going to connect Melody's mindset to Letitia and Marsa Scott, and why their recent focus on finances and real estate actually ties into what Melody is doing. If you leave early, you'll miss the part where we break down how all of their stories come together in one bigger picture. Moving on, Melody was asked about co-founding Nubian TV and Tilted Crowns Productions. She talked about how important it was for her to tell authentic stories and to shine a spotlight on Alabama. That was another powerful moment. Because, let's be real, when people think about entertainment, they think about New York, Los Angeles, maybe Atlanta. But Alabama? That's not usually the place that comes to mind. Melody said no. Alabama has talented people too. And she's right. She mentioned that she created a reality show that has lasted and continues to showcase people from Alabama. That's big. She's not just putting herself on the map, she's putting her whole state on the map. Now let's tie this back to the love and marriage. Huntsville cast. Marsa Scott has always said he wants to show that Black families can succeed, that Black business owners can thrive. Letitia Scott has shared her passion for building financial literacy in her community. Even Martell Holt, despite all his flaws, has talked about wanting to be an example for his kids. But Melody is actively making that happen in real time. And that's why fans continue to root for her. She's not just talking about change. She's showing it. And here's another hook. Stay tuned until the end because I'm going to share Melody's perspective on balance, or as she calls it, prioritizing, and how that lesson can change the way you look at your own life. When asked how she balances everything, being a mother, an entrepreneur, an artist, Melody gave an answer that surprised some people. She said she doesn't believe in balance. She believes in prioritizing. She explained that if her kids need her, that's the priority. If everyone is fine, then her work is the priority. If a contract is due, that becomes the priority. She doesn't stress herself trying to split her energy evenly because she knows that's impossible. And honestly, that's wisdom. How many times do we stress ourselves out trying to balance everything? Melody is saying stop trying to chase balance. Focus on what needs your attention most in the moment. That's how she stays sane and successful. And this lesson applies to every cast member. Think about it. Marsa and Letitia Scott often argue on the show because Letitia feels like Marsa prioritizes work too much. Martell and Melody's marriage fell apart in part because Martell didn't prioritize his family in the way he should have. Balance wasn't the issue. Priorities were. Melody has figured that out, and that's why she continues to grow. Now I want you to imagine this. Melody sitting in that interview. Calm, confident, powerful, reflecting on her journey from a teacher to a business mogul. And still keeping her focus on purpose and priorities. Doesn't that show you just how far she has come since the early days of love and marriage? Huntsville. From the drama, the heartbreak, the betrayal with Martell Holt, to now sitting on platforms being celebrated for her success. That's growth. That's victory. And that's why fans call her a queen. But we're not done. I need you to stay until the very end because the bigger lesson here is about all of us. Melody's story isn't just her story. It's a blueprint for what happens when you trust yourself. When you pivot, when you prioritize, and when you don't let the negativity of others stop you. And I'm going to tie that blueprint to the journeys of Marsa, Letitia, and Martell before we finish. So let's pause for a moment and bring in the bigger cast dynamic. Marsa Scott, as we know, has been focused on building Schultz Industries, working on projects like Black Cigar Lounge and developing real estate properties. He often positions himself as the visionary. Letitia Scott, his wife, has recently been very vocal about financial education, budgeting, and helping people understand money. Together, they present themselves as a power couple, though fans know their marriage has had plenty of challenges on screen. Then you have Martell Holt, who's been trying to reestablish his reputation after the divorce and after the fallout. From his affair with Arionne Curry, he has struggled. But he keeps talking about wanting to get back into real estate and business. And